If you are PCSing to Whidbey Island, one of the biggest decisions you're going to have to make is, do you live on island or off island? And I'm telling you right now, this decision will impact your day-to-day life way more than people expect. Quick heads up, if you're planning a move to Whidbey Island, I've got a link below where you can connect with me directly. I help a lot of military families navigate this exact decision and figure out what actually makes the most sense for their lifestyle. Because this is not a one-size-fits-all answer. I'm a local real estate agent here serving Whidbey Island, Skagit Valley, and the surrounding areas, and I'm also a Navy veteran. When I was active duty, I actually lived both off island in Burlington and on Whidbey Island near base. So everything I'm about to share isn't just what I see as an agent, it's what I personally experienced day to day. And I can tell you these two lifestyles feel completely different. So let's break it down. Let's start with living off island. So places like Burlington, Mount Vernon, Cedar-Woolley, even up into Whatcom County. For me personally, this was one of the biggest lifestyle differences. When I lived in Burlington, I had about a 45-minute commute. And I know that sounds like a downside, but honestly, I loved it. That drive became my decompression time. By the time I got home, I felt like I had actually left work behind for the day and I wasn't carrying that stress into my house. I had already processed everything. And not to sound dramatic, but the drive itself is actually very beautiful. Driving through the Skagit Valley every day, seeing the sunrises, the sunsets, it really became part of my routine in a really good way. Now, let's talk about real life convenience, because this is something people don't always think about until they're here. When you're living off island, especially in places like Burlington or Mount Vernon, you're right by I-5. So everything is right there. You've got Target, Costco, multiple grocery stores, restaurants, shopping centers. If you need something, it's usually 5 to 10 minutes away. You're not planning your entire day around errands, you just go. And being close to I-5 also makes a difference if you need to head south towards Seattle or north towards Bellingham. It's just easier access overall. Another thing to consider is resources. Living off island, you're generally going to have more options, whether that's childcare, services, shopping, or just day-to-day convenience. And depending on where you live, there can even be cost differences. I recently saw a conversation comparing water bills on island versus off island, and some areas off island were noticeably cheaper. So there can be financial advantages depending on your situation. Now, the downside, because there are definitely trade-offs. At the end of the day, it is still a commute. Even if you enjoy it like I did, it's time and it's something you have to plan your life around every single day. You also can't just run home real quick if you forget something. Everything requires a little more intention and planning. And depending on the time of year, weather can impact your commute as well. One thing I personally experienced when I was active duty during major weather events, my command would sometimes let me leave early because I had that longer commute. Now, that's obviously not guaranteed everywhere, but it's something to keep in mind. Now, let's talk about living on Whidbey Island closer to base, places like Oak Harbor. The biggest advantage here is convenience. When I lived on island, I was about 5 minutes from base. If I forgot something, needed to run home, or just wanted to take a quick lunch break, I could. That level of proximity is hard to beat. You're also getting time back in your day. You're not spending an hour or more commuting, and that time adds up quickly. If you have a spouse or family at home, this can make a huge difference, especially with military schedules being unpredictable. Being close gives you more opportunities to actually spend time together. Now, let's talk about the reality of living on the island. You still have what you need: grocery stores, restaurants, local businesses, but you're not going to have the same level of variety or convenience as being right off I-5. For example, if you want to go to Costco or Target, that's not a quick 10-minute trip anymore. You're planning for it. You're driving off island, coordinating your time, and grouping errands together. Your lifestyle shifts from, I'll just go grab that real quick, to, okay, I'm going to take care of everything at once. Another thing to consider is resources. Because Whidbey is an island and heavily populated with military families, certain things like childcare can be more limited or competitive. Now, the biggest downside for me personally when I lived on island, I didn't feel like I ever fully left work. I would get off base and 5 minutes later, I was home. And mentally, it felt like the Navy was always right there. That lack of separation can be tough depending on your personality and how you handle work-life balance. So, how do you decide? Because again, there's no right answer here. This really comes down to your lifestyle. Do you value convenience or do you value separation from work? Do you want more access to shopping, resources, and I-5? Or do you want more time back in your day and proximity to base? Are you okay with a commute or do you want everything close? I've seen people live as far as Seattle or Bremerton and commute to Whidbey Island. And I've also seen people refuse to live more than 10 minutes from base. Both work, it just depends on your priorities. If you're moving to Whidbey Island and trying to figure out what makes the most sense for your situation, I'd love to help you walk through it. There's a link in the description where you can reach out to me directly. And if this video was helpful, make sure to subscribe because I do post videos every single week breaking down what it's really like to live here and what you need to know before making a move.